Right, we've got Tekkz here playing obviously in the ePrem, where they went on to win the whole thing. But this was like the first round on the Sunday, the quarterfinals, where they played Tottenham, which is Lyrics and Tom Lees. So we'll have a little look at this and review what Tekkz was doing so good against Lyrics and why did Lyrics struggle so much against him. From when I watched this as well, and I remember like Lyrics came out hot at the start. He did like a little move on the edge of the box, which nearly actually like cooked Tekkz. But as time went on, Tekkz got like a few lucky, like there was a few bounces and stuff like that. But yeah, let's get into it. I need my pen tool as well, real quick. Go. Have a little look what he is trying to do. So, as we spoke about in the Nicholas and Neat video, it's triggering the opposite side. From what I know and remember as well, Tekkz is using the right back on balance, but it doesn't mean just because our left back's on stay back while attacking, we can't trigger him and try and do some sort of play. So as you see here, Tekkz starting off fast, triggering this left back to run to take this like space. He finds it into his Chilwell, and when he hit Chilwell once again, we'll see this a lot from Tekkz is the triggers, and especially like triggering his left centre mid. So as you see here, triggering this left centre mid and then finding it. So now he takes this space. Alright. So he finds it here. Once again, finds this pass as we spoke about into this space, into Haaland from what he triggered. As soon as he hits it into Haaland, he triggers his Henry once again. So constant triggering, constant pulling the players back, and it's the idea is one, it helps you in attack. If you basically trigger a player to run and then you pass to that player, in my opinion, the passes on this game favour them players, and it's more favour to the attacker rather than defender. If you don't trigger the run, it doesn't give you that like glitchy like feel and look to it, as well as you can constantly create the question mark around the pitch. So for example, because we triggered Henry, we've now created the question mark: are we going to play the ball through here, or are we going to play the ball over the top, or can we even like maybe even just use it as bait? Like there's just a constant question marks that we're trying to create around the pitch through triggers and using the things what are overpowered in the game. And as we spoke about, over the tops, triggering players are one of the key aspects right now what we're seeing in the game. So you see here, he triggered him, did a little R1 dribble to the side where the space was whilst Henry develops that run, and now he eventually finds him, as well as this also pushes the defensive line backwards, where before, if we just quickly go back, if we didn't trigger Henry to run, I'll try and find the right time. I might have to watch just this like 10 seconds quick again. If we don't trigger the defensive line, watch how like I'll show you basically what will happen with the defense. So if we don't trigger Henry to run in behind here, the defensive line will look to stay in this position because there is no threat in behind and no need for them to like push back, if that makes sense. So what it will do by triggering Henry, it will now push the defensive line back off, and it will have to track it. And if it doesn't track it, then obviously like the opponent, like the attacker, could just like basically play the ball over the top. So if we watch it here now, it triggers Henry. Now watch this Van Dijk like start tracking back, and then also Lyrics is going to go on to his Vieira, and now he's kind of got into a decision as well defensively. Like Lyrics is like, with, as I said, with Vieira, do I track Henry or do I close this space? If I close this space, he could just like maybe play it around me and then go to Henry. So obviously that is a predicament of what Tekkz creates by triggering the players. Now we see, like as we mentioned, Henry, because Henry was triggered, Van Dijk's running back, Company's running back, and now it's pushing the AI off. Basically, if you don't do these triggers, the AI just sits there and like, okay, cool, attack me. Like I ain't going anywhere. Step over down the wing. And as we spoke about, once again, when we're into this range, there's kind of two zones as such. So zone, I wanted that zone. in transition, you have zone 1, that is the worst one ever, and this is like zone 2. So basically, in this box here, you kind of want to look to like come in earlier if you can, in general. Obviously, there's the assessment, like once we're in this box, can we get it in early? Cool. If we can't, that then means we go into zone 2. Then once we get into zone 2 with Henry, our players, can we get it here? If we've got somebody who we can cross to, can we go all the way over here? If not, we go back here to Haaland, and then from Haaland we can look to maybe go into our centre mids. So yeah, there's like loads of things to like consider when you hit these different zones. How efficient you are in them will probably be how good you are actually at this game, to be honest with you, and your decision making around that. Alex, what was it? Alex? Appreciate the follow, bro. Welcome in. So going here, as I said, he's kind of then waiting with Haaland, stalling, finding that pass on the edge. Now finds Schweinsteiger. Once he hits Schweinsteiger, he has a few plays, what we saw previously. It's like we can go over to De Bruyne. If we hit De Bruyne, then we can driven pass into Son, touch down here, and then shoot. With Schweinsteiger, we could also like rework it back into Henry. We have a finesse plus with Henry, so actually this isn't even a terrible finesse spot with Henry. If we like, with our touch with Henry, we kind of like play it back into this angle and then try and go from here across. Or we can obviously go into Henry and try and work it in there. There's lots of options when you hit this. And even what we saw in the Nicholas game, if you have somebody who's tall, so let's say this was on the opposite side, let's say it was from the right side going into the centre, we might even have the option of going into like this space where his Haaland might occupy. You're from Panama. Welcome in, bro. Welcome in. Hey, Nugsy with the sub. Appreciate that, bro. Hope you're well. Hope you're well. I've got your stuff just uploading as well, by the way, bro, to YouTube, and then I'll be able to send it over. Just gonna take some time. Alright, let's get back. So as we spoke about, finds edge, finds Schweinsteiger, reworks it back into this space. So Haaland tries to then find Hullet, and then from Hullet we're trying to basically take a positive touch as well. When we go with Hullet, we're trying to take this touch because now it creates the question mark of our opponent. Are they going to go down here? I have to now with my Van Dijk cover this. If my first touch with Hullet is up here, it's like obvious that I'm going to try and work it here. There's no question mark on like, am I going here or am I taking this question mark or this question mark, right? Because you can kind of go down and then come back in. So things to consider when you're in the box. Look to be like more aggressive and positive with your touches, and trying to like pretend or sell the fact that you're going to go down. And if their defender then bites at you going down, then you can work the pass a lot easier. Yeah, I'm doing good, brother. I'm doing good. My barber cancelled on me 30 minutes out, so I've lost my head a little bit. I can't lie, but that's why I got the hat on, hoodie on, hiding the face. So as you see here, he pushed this wing, as we said. Nice positive touch by Tekkz. Now he's created this question mark, and this now is attack that he's now took this space, and it's looking like he could potentially get it onto the right foot of Hullet and do a finesse or work it across. Do you know what I mean? This is such a more threatening spot compared to if we went into the square earlier into here and only just looked for Son and then had to probably like wiggle like left, right, and then this like company would have been tight on us, so we wouldn't have been able to find this like threatening option. So you see there, the ball roll, tried to pass it across goal. Oh, apparently it was offside anyway. So, but yeah. So what we're going to do as well, we're just going to purely analyse what Tekkz is doing. So we see here, Lyrics is triggered as Vieira. So what is Tekkz's plan? It's to kind of get onto his left mid or his left back to now cover this run what's being triggered, because it's very easy from this position with the left back to either do a R1 triangle all the way across or R1 square with the precision crossing all the way over. Or and then like obviously they find that pass and they're just going to be through. So that is Tekkz's worry, like key worry in this decision. Once that's covered, then he then has to consider what options does he have with Hullet. Like, is he going to go to Palmer? Is he going to go to Haaland? Do you know what I mean? So yeah, plenty of options, and it all comes through that. And it's important to do them triggers. What Lyrics has done, because it creates a constant question mark of what he's going to do. So what Lyrics does, he decides to player lock Haaland down the wing. When he hits Haaland as well, here, he triggers his Hullet to run. So now when he's with Haaland, he can kind of like R1 dribble back into this space whilst Hullet runs into this. If Tekkz then follows Haaland with Owenvenn, it's going to leave this space in behind for Lyrics to try and attack him. So you see there, kind of assessing can he go, finds Palmer back, sees that Hullet was on, doesn't take it, takes his time. Once again though, Tekkz is getting on his wingers to try and cover basically the wing play, and when he's running across, he's also trying to block off the passing lane. He isn't just trying to like run over to Vieira because that's where the ball is. When he's running over, he wants to cut off the passing lane with his Haaland to this or this. So then when Lyrics has the ball with Vieira, he can't find this pass into this, and it forces him to either go back or go into here. But if he goes into this spot, Tekkz has got 3 players around it where he can apply some pressure. But I would assume Lyrics is probably going to rework a switch from this position. So as he brings it down, said like the attacking passes lanes were covered from Haaland. Tekkz is also, as I said, his second man pressed his Haaland to keep putting that pressure on the ball, and then went onto his Henry to kind of then cut off that pass backwards / passes like into like Rice or Van Dijk. And then as we said, Lyrics is always going to probably play for that switch, especially as he's playing left back balance. It's like the most common play. Once again, Tekkz then gets on his Son, trying to cover this pass forward so he doesn't make it so easy. Because obviously, if Lyrics has all the time and space he wants, he brings this down, he goes to his Palmer, he triggers his Hullet down the line, and then he could just work it from Palmer, either working it back into Rice, doing an L1 triangle off to Hullet. Like, there's so many different plays from these switches what you can do. But Tekkz is obviously trying to like cut off this pass to Palmer because it's like the most obvious and like the most threatening pass. But as I said, he gets into Palmer, he triggers his Hullet, he player locks Haaland, he baits it, cancels it back into Palmer, triggers Hullet again. One of the plays what I really like on this game is what we just kind of seen from Lyrics, but he didn't execute it well, is when you go from your left back into your left centre mid, trigger your Hullet to run, or your left back to run. You can do this on either side as well of the pitch. You trigger that wing back to run, you go into Palmer, and then you try and player lock Haaland. Use a circle. You player lock Haaland to then find this pass, and then when you get into Haaland into this space, you then have this like run from Hullet down the wing where you can kind of like look to play for, and if you don't play for it, you can kind of also take this space or like reset it. But your team's like in such a threatening and like worrying place to like take, which is kind of like what we tried to do. We just didn't player lock Haaland to drop in, and because it's like we didn't player lock him in, Haaland's trying to push this space down rather than coming inside here. And then Tekkz is obviously reading that pass, so that was the threatening pass. Tekkz moves it out to Son, takes his time, once again, goes to Son, goes back, and he oh, that's the worst, that's not an arrow. Goes back, and then he triggered his Son to run here, so now Lyrics has to worry about the run of Son. But also the fact that like Tekkz has moved the ball out wide is now we're not going to lose the ball, and if we do lose the ball, it's very likely that it's going to be like for a throw-in or something. So he gets the ball, moves it into his midfield, out to what's it called? Into Haaland. But one thing we didn't even see, find it, fast forward this a little bit. When Tekkz moves this back into the middle, he triggers his owenvenn to run as well. So if we see here, he goes back, goes into Van Dijk here. He actually triggers his owenvenn to run here, as we see. And as I said, you can kind of know when people trigger somebody because they put the arm out, and that's when you know you've triggered them. So he's triggered his owenvenn, and now when he hits the Schweinsteiger, he's going to work it out to the left back, and then he potentially with Ben Chilwell, because he's got long ball plus, or even without long ball plus, you can make this pass. He's looking maybe to play that ball all the way across, and then he's probably going to be into the opponent's like 60 to 100 range, what I like to call it. Or he can just attack down the left, and he's created that question mark that he might play for this. So what he does, he gets a Ben Chilwell. He's kind of looking what he's got. Takes his time. Triggers his Chilwell again. Plays out for the switch. Good touch out away from the player. Taking his time. He loses the ball high. That is actually, you can't be losing the ball there, I'll be real. That was very lucky. Just taking his time. Switches. Just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. Now he works for that right back, as we spoke about earlier. With the long ball of Chilwell, we can always play this. Then once again, we spoke about these hot zones. When we're in these ranges, we're looking for this, or this. So this one is just a pass down here. A lot of people like to play a lot, hull it, and maybe like take it down into this space and then touch and shoot, or just shoot first time. Or the most common one, what you will see is people go to edge of sun, because when they hit sun, then they can either go into this space and then look for the pass across, or they can even turn back to De Bruyne, or there's even a possibility of a cross into this sort of range, and we can look for like a knockdown to either player. Playing, hits De Bruyne, tries a first time pass into Hullet. Interesting. So once again as well, like Tekkz's like plan in his press as such is to try and slow his opponent down, especially in the first phase of when you lose the ball in 4-3-2-1, because your team goes from a 4-3-2-1 in attack to 4-4-2 in defense. You have to consider like it changing formation and like players trying to get back into position. So in this moment, you'll notice a lot of times you get countered in this sort of motion where like players are running into position. What you want to do is use your players, like whoever's like furthest back. Well, not even your furthest back, but your furthest like midfielders, your centre mid is usually what I like to do. Is use, especially if they go fast, is use them centre mids to kind of slow this like attack. If they find this attack and pass play off, using them midfielders to kind of use as like as an anchor and like slow your opponent down to force them to go back and then make them play, and then your team can get into position, and then from there you can kind of pick the pieces off him. So yeah, he finds Haaland. He then gets onto his. He's not even trying to get the ball here. He's just trying to get on his De Bruyne to cut into this or like cut this off, right? A lot of people, I feel, they feel like because they're good at pressing, they feel like they got to get towards the ball. But if they go towards the ball, then they can, like Lyrics would be able to find this. I think it's his son. He could trigger his Hullet to run as well, to run in there. And so if he hits Son, he can go. So like Tekkz has to like worry about like trying to drop into this space or to cover this, or if he goes towards, he's got to like cut off a passing lane at the same time. So you see here, he cut it off that backwards passing lane, which kind of did open up the forward one, but it was still fine. Tekkz got on his defender. So he was on his defender originally to see, okay, like what is the threat? What was he going to do with Hullet? Is he going to push down this line? If he goes down this line, I'm going to stay on my wing back and kind of try and make him push back. Okay, he slowed things down. Let me get onto my son. Pull him into this range to now make it like a 2-on-1, 2-on-2 situation on the wing. And then a lot of times when people in this 2-on-1/2-on-2, they basically make the mistake, and it's like a lot harder to obviously just burst through and go straight through. He also second man presses his owenvenn here, which just tightens this little space off the hullet. So even if he doesn't do this, like his owenvenn might like drop off here, allowing this hullet to take maybe like this range of space. But yeah, brought in Sun. Now it forces that pass backwards. He finds it into Rice. Player locks off to the right centre mid. Triggers his right back. And then Tekkz here, constantly covering like the forward passes, the forward runs. Let's just see what he actually does. I think this is when Tekkz nearly scored. But let's have a quick little look at like how he defended this on the wing. So first of all, he finds De Bruyne, player lock, fine. Let's assess when he finds the wing, like what he's getting. So once he's here with Blanc, he wants to tighten the space off. He's not trying to get the ball as such with Blanc. He is just trying to force Sun to either go out here or go here or go here, to slow him down, to be able to pull these, and then he can eventually pull these players back into position, right? Because he has been a little bit aggressive there, and like just how the game goes, right? Like people are gonna find like passes swap breakthrough. So he tightens that space so he can't just do whatever he wants with Sun, but there was lots of space on the right, so it takes the space out to the right, and then Tekkz gets on his Chilwell to cover this Vieira, which we saw Lyrics trigger a little bit earlier. So if he does find this, we can kind of like track it, right? If we don't do this, it's always a free over the top or triangle through to Vieira. So you need to make sure we are always tracking the runs when they become the threatening pass. So Lyrics then slows things down. Tekkz is on his centre back. Then changes to Chilwell to like consider, obviously, if he keeps going down with Sun, he can then maybe tighten this up because it was so compact in that area. Turns back, and that's what you want. Basically, you want, when you're defending, you want your opponent to be turning back into you, and then where your team's so compact, you can just basically keep making the tackles. But then here, he gets onto his Haaland. He's trying to like pull him into this spot. I think then he goes onto his Schweinsteiger to cover off one of these two as well. Yeah, in my opinion, he probably could have switched to his number 6 here to cover off this. If he goes back to Rice, he goes back to Rice, and then it's like one of those we kind of got to defend, like the pass to Haaland or like Omri, but we have De Bruyne and Schweinsteiger, because Schweinsteiger will stay goal side, and like if he fires up, then we can do that. But if he does the L1 square from there, then it's like we just got to play a lot. But yeah. He finds Sun, goes back out to De Bruyne, hits the wing back, and then as we spoke about, these are kind of like different zones. Probably the worst square. That's one zone, that's another zone. When we're here with Vieira, can we go here? Can we go here? Can we go here? And the most common one, what we'll be seeing in the pro play at the moment, will be this one into the box. As we'll see, eventually comes in. And then Tekkz tries to player lock off to... So the plan is, when somebody does the cross, is you want to player lock off. You don't want to try and contest the header, because if you're spamming X with owenvenn, if you win it, then the ball's going to be like in a trouble spot in the middle. What you want to try and do is player lock off to the like one of the centre backs here, and stay goal side of the attacker, so you are able to like defend the touchdown and shoot. Because a lot of people will try and like play for the knockdown here, touch either here or here, and then shoot. If you try and go with like, let's say he goes to Blanc, player locks Blanc, and tries to push into this lane, it will phase through him. Like basically, it doesn't like, it won't lock on for him. So when you player lock off, you need to accept that they're going to get that header down, but you've got to try and block the next move. To see, he slightly just changed off. Like he was obviously meant to go to Blanc. And gets a shot off. Wins the header because it's Haaland. I think this is just good from lyrics, to be honest with you. Good dribbling, good skill moves. But yeah, now we got the ball defensively. We find our centre mid. We then trigger Haaland to run to create that question mark instantly on, are we going to play for this? As well as it means they can't just press you whatever they want. You can always like look to do that pass. Also, once again, look how this AI here started running back because of this run from Haaland. And now it leaves all this space here to just driven pass it into Henry. It's not the right thing. Driven pass it into Henry and just be able to take this space with Haaland going there, and then you got like a 2v1 on the wing. So yeah, a lot of things. What we're seeing is a lot of triggers and why we're triggering them, where we're triggering them, and who we're triggering. Not just triggering for the sake of it. So yeah, now we find Henry. We have that 2v, like, not 2v1 as such, but like it's a lot more crowded on this side now, where we can kind of like work it into whoever we want. So we've got Henry, Haaland, Hullet, and we can always, if need be, if we can't actually take this space, it's all good. We can just go back to our left. That's not the right one. We can always just go back to our left back and then hit a switch over or work it into the middle, whatever seems to be like open. So as you see, it goes back. Triggered is Henry as well. So we then once again question mark. Are we going to play feet? Are we going to go in behind? Are we even going to use it? We also can see like here with Chilwell, we've got De Bruyne. We have, even on the mini map, we have the right back free. If we go De Bruyne, we can go Haaland. Then we got this runner. Like there's so many plays just from one trigger, and so much confusion on the like defensive end. Like, oh shit, like what am I gonna like cover? What is the most threatening? Defensively, you have to obviously worry about this runner because that is the biggest threat. If you don't track this, it's just a free like R1 triangle down that wing. So yeah, it finds De Bruyne. Not De Bruyne, sorry, Schweinsteiger. And we can even see from that trigger as well, once again from Henry, we have an R1 triangle potential up there. Or we can just work it here, here, or all the way across. And it's like such a simple trigger because you always was going to go back, but it's essential to do for like for the player, right? So yeah, we moved it over. Sometimes happens with a switch. Just wait for the pause to be done. Right. Pause came through. Well, the pause throw in. When he went to that right centre back, he also triggered his Vieira. As we see, as I said, like always trigger the opposite guy. Just because he doesn't stay back does not mean he has to stay back. Then we're going to work it. See if we can go down the left. Can't. Good press from Tekkz as well there. So let's talk about what he was doing. So what Tekkz does, he gets on his son to press down this to cover off this passing lane down here. And then he also second man presses his Hullet, which will run this so it kind of covers off this as well as put the pressure on company, forced him to like have to slow down and potentially lose the ball. Here as we see like the 2 seconds. People are honking their horn outside. Shut up. Yeah, finding company. He turns back. We're still second man pressing our Hullet to put the pressure on. Once we got to that point where like Hullet's close to company, we're now gonna like run at company and kind of like follow company where he goes. If he goes here with Hullet, we're going to go here. If he goes here, we're going to go here with Hullet. So kind of slow him down and force him to make a mistake or like go backwards. It's good, but obviously the spacing wasn't the best. He kind of then like twist and turn, got here, then found this passing lane. Tekkz then decides to quickly change to his right back, as we see here on the mini map, to be able to like, if he goes into his left back, he's tight and being able to like apply some pressure on the ball and force him to go back once again. Hits Hullet, and then once again with his winger, he's trying to pull him in to cover this and this. If he goes back to Palmer, he goes back to Palmer. We've got players what like are in this range with De Bruyne, Schweinsteiger, Omri. Like it can happen, right? But the threat is the pass to Haaland and triggering Hullet to go down. So that's what we're trying to stop right now. As you see, it makes him turn back, slow things down. Then with De Bruyne, we then apply that pressure to go on Palmer. But this could also meant this opens up, but it's still fine because it should slow things down. In tournament level, like people will slow things down. Yeah, see there. Then he switched back to Son once De Bruyne was in there to cover and then put the pressure on the ball, forced him to go back. And then look, that all came, like he could have easily won that ball there if he actually trusted his like press. So this all came from just a little press down the wing. So simple, just constantly covering like the passing lanes, forcing him to turn back and go like turn slow. Here with Omri, if he just ran, because this pass was so loose, if he just ran and hit Van Dijk, he probably gets the ball. As you see, but he switched off to cover the next phase, which could be like down here. But he could have definitely, like, I think it's such a common thing, like people dwell on the middle, go to their centre backs and try and pass from like centre back to centre back, but you can actually press and hit the centre back. But once again, getting on Son. What's the movement? What we're doing with Son? We're not going towards the ball. We are going down to cover the passing lane, and then eventually, when we get to that passing lane, we can then put the pressure on the ball. But we're always, our focus is to try and defend the next forward pass. And I explained this to somebody yesterday. I see defending and attacking in FIFA very similar to American football, in the fact that you are always trying to take yards on your opponent, and you can take yards back by basically stopping the next forward run or the next forward pass, because all people want to do is try and like find that next forward pass. So just kind of see like sometimes the game as like American football, where people want to take like 2-3 yards just from one pass, but how can we stop that 2-3 yard pass? But yeah, covering down, and then he's gonna try and find well, he went to cover off Palmer, find Son. And I think like defensively we can kind of accept him having the ball here with Son, as long as we get a little bit tight. We don't want to overcommit with Van Dijk, because we kind of want to position ourselves in a play where we want to get tight to him but not sell that we're going to go to him, because if we bite, then he can just like work it around us, right? So we kind of always want to stay goal side, defending down, so if he tries to twist and turn and like step overs, we can always defend it. But we do want to apply some sort of pressure on the ball, so he can't just do whatever he wants, because if we just let him twist and turn in that spot, in this little circle, then it's a bit dangerous, right? But if we kind of apply a little bit of pressure, we can kind of force him to go back. So there, I think in my opinion, he could have been like a little bit closer originally, because he kind of stepped off and then went back, and then he's now second man pressed it, and now our back four is like this. And we've second man pressed Van Dijk out of position, meaning our opponent could easily do something like this. Or now like he has to then like make a decision with Owenvenn or one of his defenders when it finds a certain pass. And they're not the defensive looks what we want to get. And it all came from, he kind of like backed off a little. Like, I don't mind him backing off, but he kind of still needs to apply some sort of pressure on the ball to kind of see, just say to like Lyrics, okay, cool, you can't just twist and turn and do whatever you want. But now he's got obviously this wing. Once again, hot zone. Can we get into here? Can we get into here? Can we get it to here? Can we even get it to here or even across? These are the different plays. Benny in chat, if you don't mind, I have a curious question. What are football legends that don't deserve the status of cards on FIFA? Also, love your country. Appreciate the follow, Stalin. Legends that don't deserve the status or cards on FIFA. I'll be real, bro. I don't even know who's got legends or anything. Like, I think most. I don't think there's like any legends what I can think off the top of my head. I'm like, yeah, they don't deserve it. But yeah, gets it down wing, player locked Haaland. So what's Tekkz trying to do? He's trying to, with owenvenn, he's going to try and either cut this off by running into that kind of like this range, or applying pressure, because when people player locked like this, there's the AI obviously dribbling it, right? So there's a potential that we could just run and hit tackle on them. Now you see that he went in the favour of constantly blocking off this pass, so then he kind of has to then undo the player lock, and then also make him slow down. And then once again, once we've made him slow down, our plan is to try and bring as many people, make ourselves as compact as possible in this range, right? So what we will try and do is with Son, we'll try and drop him into this range. With Hullet, we'll eventually try and drop him into this range, and we'll try and drop De Bruyne into this range. So if he finds these passes, it's so compact, you can't just like twist and turn and do whatever you want. So you see here, gets on Son, drags him in, kind of cutting off this like passing lane to either the opponent's Son or Hullet. Then the opponent finds Hullet. Then he gets onto his. Tekkz gets onto his Hullet, covers this, so he can cover the pass from Hullet into wrong one. His Hullet into Rice. Meaning he can't just get whatever, because if somebody finds Rice, it's basically just like a pass, you know what I mean? And they could just basically touch and shoot. So we're trying to stop that with our Hullet, instead of what I think a lot of people will try and do is trying to either go like here or here with De Bruyne and Son. But if we go on Son and try and like get into this lane, that means that pass is going to open up to this and this. So we kind of want to keep Son into that position. If we pull out De Bruyne, it might not be too bad, but still, if he finds this pass to Haaland, the space in here isn't as compact. But it is very situational a lot of the times as well. But yeah, constantly pulling these players back. Look how now compact and tight we are at the back. And now it's like you force your opponent to have to do something crazy to get through, right? He eventually works it to Palmer. But where we didn't pull out our De Bruyne out earlier, now when he finds Palmer, we are like tight and we can kind of stop whatever he kind of wants to do in this range. Just following him, getting on Benner, constantly covering the lane and the passing lane of what he's trying to do. Finds on Benner, switches, takes that pressure off just from the switch. Triggers Haaland again, like we spoke about, constantly triggering this person. Ooh. Constantly triggering this Haaland, the left centre mid, to run, to give him something. Loses the ball high up for the opponent. Opponent tries to finesse, doesn't get it. Jibzini, I appreciate the follow. Welcome in, bro. So ball with Chilwell. Kind of just taking our time, wait for that right back to come up, potentially. Work it back to the left side, trigger Haaland once again. As I said, like Tekkz is just, he constantly does this trigger. And it's a trigger what PHN used to do last year. I don't know if he still does it a lot this year, but PHN used to do this a lot last year with his Rude Hullet in his 4-3-2-1. So, yeah, constantly doing that trigger, because then we can eventually try and work for it from Chilwell, or just use it as bait. And like Now as well, because we triggered our left centre mid, look at this spacing here. So if we do find something or try and take this like into this square, the spacing is so good and favoured for us because we triggered and like pulled our opponent like back, right? Gonna find Schweinsteiger, L1 triangle off to the right back. Touch in it away from the opponent, bringing it down. Triggers our right back again. Finding De Bruyne to give us, like, that trigger is super important as well, what he does with Ogbonna, because if he doesn't do that, when he hits it to the right centre back, like, Lyrics doesn't have to worry about him playing that ball over the top, really. Cool. We get it out to Chilwell, taking the space. And a good read from Lyrics. So, what I'm seeing Nicholas do is when people trigger early here, where is it? From like, basically they trigger in their third, and you can clearly see who they triggered. You see like here, they trigger Vieira. What Nicholas is trying to do is, if they go into the middle, into either centre mid or like you're close enough to the defender, he is trying to mirror what they're doing with their defender to kind of cut off that passing lane, and then people get stuck and then lose the ball. But here, kind of, he was able to do what he wanted. He triggered that, found it out to Hullet, R1 square all the way over into thing. But once again, we see Tekkz pulling his midfielder in into this space to try and cut off the passing either to De Bruyne or Henry. But we also want to put some pressure on the ball, so he can't just do whatever he wants with his Vieira. So running over with Haaland. Second man pressing Chilwell to cover, so he can cover like down if he tries to go down. And now by the time he's actually got the ball under control with Vieira, we have numbers around him, right? We've got like potentially like one here, one here, one here. Even this is, I consider, a number really around him because he can't go back as such. And that's what we want to do when the ball's getting switched, is trying to pull them players into position to make it hard to get through. Went on to his Schweinsteiger to kind of cover this. And then he went on to Henry to cover the pass to Rice. And now once he's hit it to the centre-back, we kind of know he's using the left-back on balance, so we kind of need to consider this. But first of all, he triggers his right-back when he goes back into the right-back. A lot of people basically will try and switch to the opposite side when they hit their right back or right centre back or their centre mid. So a lot of times, like pros and players will try and quickly change to whoever's possible to like cover the switch, as we see here. So like as soon as this hit Van Dijk, Tekkz has gone onto his right back to try and like get over there and put some pressure on the ball. But the problem is he might lock on, and if it's Hullet, he might also lose the header. But he does well. He presses L2 to like kind of stop him like locking on. So now he's just there ready to kind of defend the next phase of the play. He understood that he was too far away from the play, and now let me get players in position, kind of stop him, slow him down so he can't just do whatever he wants. And now eventually he's going to get rewarded from it. Just super like smart play. Going back to the centre back, we saw Nicholas do this a lot when he wins the ball. Just going back to the centre back, just taking his time. Ogbonna triggers his right centre mid this time, which is interesting because this guy is usually on stay back, and he's kind of like a recycle pass for us to use. So I would assume like Tekkz is either going to try and work it down here and get into Son, or he's just going to turn back to Van Dijk and then play for the switch. Because I don't really like the trigger there, mainly because we have so many numbers around Ogbonna. Like we basically have one play, which is to turn back right now. If we like dwell on it with Ogbonna, because we triggered him, like we could easily lose the ball high up. One of our midfielders is not in place, and then we're gonna be in a really difficult position to defend in. So if you do this trigger, be wary of like your surroundings basically. And if you do have like a load of numbers on you, our plan is to kind of like just move it like either back or across and just away as fast as possible. because if we just hold on to it, we're going to get tackled and then be in a bad defensive position. So as I said, he'll move it back, triggers his owenvenn, works it into, as I said, a lot of people will try and like switch it when they hit their right centre back or left centre back. So Lyrics is just trying to cover that now with Son, pulling them in, getting onto his Henry now as well. So Tekkz gets onto left back, hits his left centre back, triggers that left back, and obviously now this creates that question mark. Are we going to like use it? And it also makes that question mark when we're on Belong. Are we going to go here, or are we going to switch? As I said, it's such a common play we see. People go from their left back into their left centre back and switch it. But this trigger creates that question mark, right, of are we going to try and work down this? Because like this could have easily opened up to like we go Schweinsteiger here and then play the ball over the top, or we could have turned up and gone onto the right side, right? So it's really important that we're doing these little triggers to create constant question marks on what we're trying to do, as well as it kind of like throws off your opponent on the approach to play. Cool. So now we find Schweinsteiger. As I said, we did this now. Now we've hit Schweinsteiger, we create that question mark on Chilwell. Are we going to go down here? But also now we have this driven pass into Henry. We could player lock this, to be honest with you, to make it a little bit better. But also that lane is open. But also now Vieira's got to drop off, giving space to Henry to do whatever he wants. If we find Henry. We might not. We might do an out-1 triangle. Yeah. Do an out-1 triangle to the right side. But that's like the beauty of creating that trigger and that question mark on that right side. Alright, finding owenvenn, getting it down, touching it away from our opponent, just holding on to it, seeing what we've got. Go back to De Bruyne. Here. We trigger our owenvenn, so now we have that question mark that we might take this space, and then we could also go here into a pass like here and hit a finesse potentially, or work it down here. We shall see what he does, because he looks like he's trying to do something first time. Yeah, so first time into Swine, and then what we spoke about, get into this position. We saw Nicholas do this, and it could be super essential. Like I think even Brighton do this a lot as well. When they hit this centre mid, is they're doing like an L1 square to either like the like somebody with aerial plus basically, and because we got Haaland, we can player lock Haaland and then play off to the space, play for the knockdown, and it's like a middle knockdown, which we saw Nicholas be so rewarded for against Neat. So potential play there, but I would assume we're gonna probably just R1 into this space and see what opens up. Yeah, we do. So R1 up to that. And the reason we R1 up into that space is because one, that's where the space is to take. Two, it gives us a little time to assess where, like, what's opening up. Okay, we try to force it, don't get anything. And we try to force it again. So second half, obviously, we see Tekkz kind of sort of take this game. Getting onto owenvenn, tight, quick on the switch. Once again, triggers his right forward when he got the ball with owenvenn. So now he has that potential play constantly up and over the top down here, which I think he will play. Yeah, gets blocked from Palmer. Ball with owenvenn. Triggers his Haaland here once again. This is now going to push the AI defense line from here back to maybe at least to the edge of the box from this one trigger. What we'll see potentially, depending when he actually plays it. So watch there. Yeah, see that AI dropped off here. Now create that more space, and then we try to play for the head down. We saw that trigger from the right. From as soon as Lyrics had that, he triggers his right back, and then we see, once again, we've seen it a couple of times, but Tekkz is constantly trying to stop this ball over. But he's also with Son. He's second man pressing to apply some pressure on the ball as well. He's not just tracking, because if you don't put any pressure on the ball, people are just going to notice that, and then like with Hullet, just like sprint down into this space, right? And then if he does sprint down with you second man pressing, like you can switch to like Son quick and then defend this. Which he did. He gets onto his... What I'm seeing as well, he kind of like... I don't know if this is a common thing, but he, with De Bruyne, like once they find this pass like into the left forward and stuff, he's kind of like always reading the backwards pass with his midfielders. Which is interesting. Because I would have thought he would have wanted to try and pull him into this range, but he's always like covering this back pass. But yeah, Lyrics hits into Haaland, triggers his Hullet. Let's see how this develops. Plays for it, takes a wing. Could have probably been more aggressive there, but yeah, it slows down, and that's what you want. As I said, defensively, you want your opponent to slow things down, and then you can kind of like be aggressive on them. So 45th minute here. Finds that early pass into Son. When he finds Son, he triggers his Hullet to run, which now pushes the AI off backwards, and has to like Lyrics has to consider this runner, right? Because if he doesn't, Tekkz can just basically play for it and basically get a free goal. And then the AI is also pushed off a lot. So when we work at edge as well now, we have way more space here now compared to if we didn't trigger Hullet. That AI wouldn't have dropped off to like originally all the way to like this 6-yard box. It would have gone like only to where it is now, and it would have been like ready to and prepared for this like pass with De Bruyne. So hits De Bruyne, step overs, waiting, moves it out to Son. This is so good. Good anticipation, but so yeah, as we spoke about. So he gets it to Son, triggers Hullet, alright? And then, once again, we spoke about hotspots. Here, we're assessing, can we get anything here? Can we get anything here? Can we get anything backwards? If we can't get anything, we just slow down with Son and kind of just wait for things to develop and come into play. Which he does. Ball roll. But he's still being like aggressive. He's still threatening that he's going to go towards goal, which makes Lyrics obviously have to worry about all the attacking passes. He finds edge. He step overs up to this space to kind of like see if he can get that pass into Omri and sells that. Then that also makes him bite. Then he finds Schweinsteiger. And now there's like some players out of position, so we should be able to just find the passes like into our attackers, which he does. He's really aggressive for that first touch. L1 speed boost down. I'm surprised Lyrics did a slide tackle here. Like, really surprised. I think he could have just stood him. Like, because this isn't like a really threatening spot. He could have just stood him, but Tekkz done really well in the sense of like actually to anticipate the slide and where the slide is going to be and where to like dribble to, and then just driven past it across box, and then anything can really happen when you driven past it across box. It can go to anyone you want. Half time. So now we see some adjustments from Tekkz this half in the sense of like how he was approaching the game. So let's have a little look. Before, I feel like that was a very like cagey game and a pretty 50-50 game until that slide tackle and that one mistake. But once that mistake came in, I think it gave Tekkz confidence and he kind of just rode on it. To see what he does. Triggers his Schweinsteiger, moves it out to the left back. See what happens here. Takes his time. Triggers his left back once again. Constantly, as I said, constantly trigger this left back to give you that question mark and that potential like I might play it here or I might work it into this space. But we always know he has his right back on balance, so he always has that as an outlet if need be. Works it to a centre back, taking his time. Just walking around with it, taking his time. Fires it back out to the left back, and I think this is where he scores here. He triggers his Haaland here, which then runs here, which then pushes the AI off, and then we'll also note something what Haaland does for you guys to consider back at home. Oh wait, this isn't. Oh no, wait, this isn't. Is it here? Actually, he might not score straight. Oh, it's here. I knew it was coming. So he finds it back out to Chilwell. He triggers him. He takes wing. What we need to consider with Haaland, yes, this run's really good and good trigger because it pushes the AI to drop off slightly to like down here. But also something to consider is when you trigger a player offside, they always run back onside, right? So watch Haaland in this position now. So he runs offside. Tekkz is just taking his time. Now guess what? Haaland runs back onside. And because it's an extra player in the box, the AI doesn't know who to pick up, leaves him free. Bang. Free goal. And it's all because of a trigger. Right. Once again, Tekkz gets the goal kick, triggers his right back, moves it out to the left back, potentially has a... Gets out to the left back, kind of as well. Once again, what we can consider off the switches as well is that when the right back runs off, like as well from the trigger, he's going to run back onside. So if we see now, look at the position he takes up now. So when we switch it, potentially if he does, we are like super high up on our opponent, and we can like try and approach and attack this. Alright, any tips on improving the right stick switching when you defend your own penalty area? Right stick switching, in my opinion, is one of those things that just takes time to get used to and practice. You just got to do it a lot. But around the edge of the box, I think a lot of people are like... Everyone always says how good right stick switching is. Right stick switch is definitely like the most skill gap thing in defending. But you can still use L1 switching. So if people are driven passing into their strikers and you're slow on the right stick switch to them defenders, you can just press L1 and switch to the defender and then defend it. So don't be scared to use L1 is basically my call to reference until you get really like comfortable in using right stick, especially around the bots because it's like so many quick passes. But yeah, now we're here with Chilwell. Take our time, triggers Chilwell once again, now finds Schweinsteiger. And then when we hit Schweinsteiger, we potentially had that over the top once again with to the left back if we wanted to. But he's also going to take a high position because he's gone offside and then onside. Now he's going to stand like in this spot. But because he'll stay back, he's eventually going to work it back. If you have him on balance, he's going to stay up higher. Right, works it into Haaland, triggered his left back. As I said, this is one of the plays what I like at the start of the game. It's like that pass from like left back or like left centre mid into your striker, with the left back running. So when you're here with Henry, you can kind of do like whatever you fancy and like it's a threatening spot. Just realised. So yeah, now he's here. You can do that step over with Henry, take that space, and then you have the overlapping run. It's so hard to defend. Constantly having players to go. Works it over to Chilwell, who he triggered. Now he's once again in the hot zone with Chilwell. What are we looking for? Can we go here? Can we go here? Can we go here? Do we just want to take our time? Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of decision making, but like also you've got to be quick and snappy on assessing them situations. Takes that space with Chilwell to kind of threat that he's going to go down there. Finds the edge, goes Haaland. Touch. He tried to trigger his De Bruyne off that pass, but it got blocked. Really good. Just them type of things you can't really review because it's just like at the end of the day, it's just feeling like what he's doing. But once again, we see the ball when it gets to the centre backs, he's constantly like playing for the switch. So Tekkz is kind of clocked onto this like fast. I'm going to second man press company, and then I'm going to go on my left winger to cover the switch. As we see here. So now we're like tight on him, and we got like a bit of a squeeze, and confidence is like oozing now because we know like we're there. Lyrics triggers his left back here. So, and then Tekkz is considering this pass into Palmer, but also he needs to consider this pass to Hullet, because obviously we can just do not that. We can just do a ball over the top if we want to be. So Tekkz has got to be very cautious on what he wants to block off here. But because it's triggered, it's kind of like he's never really going to play it to feet here, if that makes sense, because he's triggered. So actually you want to cover this, because if he goes feet, you can always like recover it, because like it's going to be this like moment where like Hullet's like running down and then has to run back as such, right? And then in that moment you might be able to come across with Son. But yeah, it's actually kind of like really heads up players, like because he's triggered, he's not really going to play it for feet, and if he does, like your right back and right mid isn't too far off. Now when it stops, now we have to consider that pass to feet, if that makes sense, because he's not running. It's not like he's going to play it over the top. Which he does a square. That's quite funny. But then he, as well, when Lyrics is into this position, he triggers his Son. So Tekkz has to watch this run. If he doesn't watch this run, like the opponent can just do a one triangle over the top. Right, gets the ball, finds Schweinsteiger, square ball out to Chilwell. Finds that pass into Hullet. We know he likes the finesse, I think he was kind of like eyeing it up and then wanted to kind of bait it at the same time and then rework it. The Tekkz triggers his Son. What takes his time now. That trigger as well is going to push the AI off, so now we've got like more space in the middle. Once again, working it to our left back every single time. Just dribbling, waiting to see, as we spoke about these. There's like two zones. There's a zone here where we consider can we go in early, and there's a zone here, and then deciding what we can do. He's currently in the second zone, so it's more so like we're looking like for these ranges. Once he goes back into this like other zone, zone 1, he obviously is looking for edge really, or like a ball in the air. Taking his time, even baiting that what he's going to go to do to kind of assess what he's doing. Takes line. Now he's once again still in that square. What we spoke about, zone 2. Waiting for them players to come across. Now he has Henry, Haaland, and then players on the edge if need be. Finds Henry. Just wiggling. I think he tries to do a step up, yeah. High press, wins the ball up high. Finds edge, once again. Spoke about it in them zones, that's what we're looking for. Finds edge. First time pass down from De Bruyne into Son. Try to touch and shoot off. Gets to Henry, step overs down. Then I think he finds Hullet. Did he shoot this? Yeah. Good keeper movement. Once again, no, Lyrics wins the ball with his centre mid. Well, gets the ball with centre mid, triggers his Son, so now he has that runner. But it's one of them early ones, so we can kind of like our play shouldn't really be worrying about that tracking that run at right in that moment. It should be more so can we like cut off that passing lane as well as like pressing the player. So we see Son dropping again into this space off the switch. Trying to block off this passing lane. And then if he goes into Palmer, we have multiple numbers where can go into this range. Kind of forcing your opponent to go back. And then you know like when they go, once again, they go back here, it's like cool, they're going to probably try and work it for the wing. So let's just cover the wing. Once again, Son dropping into this space every single time. Just constantly trying to drop him into that space. Gets the ball. Triggers his Haaland again. It was a little bit over force. He should have probably turned back there. Once again, with that Son, dropped him into this little like lane here to kind of cover that pass into the attackers. And then he comes over with Son. He doesn't want to like bite. As you see, he's not really trying to get the ball. He's actually trying to stop the opponent, find that next like future move, and then once he's got that like set up, then he tries to like apply pressure to the ball. Right, we've got the ball with Chilwell, moving the ball out wide, taking our time. Find Blanc, find Schweinsteiger, triggered our Chilwell, work it back out to Chilwell. Finds it into Haaland, triggers Chilwell once again, finds these passes now forward. Then we trigger Omri to run. We triggered this earlier as well, so we even have the threat. Like, this is why it's good, because we always have, like I said, constant question marks, right? It's like, even when we're doing the build-up through the middle, like through these guys, there's the question mark that we might move it out wide, or we can always like rework it to the opposite side. But we pretended that we was going to go down the left, like using that left, and then we find the pass inside, we trigger Omri, and now we have this to run, which I think he plays, if I'm not mistaken. He definitely should. If he doesn't, it does. But to be honest with you, Omri doesn't really give the best of runs. But yeah, but we still had Chilwell running. Now once again, 2 zones. One here. One here. We're assessing every single time when we're in these ranges. Can we get it inside into these guys? If not, let's just take it into zone 2. And then assessing what we can get. Finds Omri, then finesses. Lovely stuff. Quickly hit a refresh, because this isn't... So yeah, lovely stuff. All came from the triggers and whatnot. And then he triggered his Omri even there. Finds it Omri. Finesse with the finesse plus. We know it's really good. Lovely stuff from him. Pretty huge goal as well, I think, in terms of things. This went from like being 2-0 tight game, Matthias versus Tom, very doable, to 3-0. It's a bit like shit. I need to probably try and get a goal now for Tekkz, for Tom, sorry, from Lyric's point of view. Once again, goes from left back to left centre back, triggers his Chilwell, finds that pass to that left centre mid, and as we spoke about the play, what I like, trigger like the left back, get it into the left centre mid. See, can we get to centre mid, into the left forward, or even can we just do the ball over the top? That's why it's so good when you find Haaland or like your left centre mid, is because you have like the potential over the top to Chilwell, or you have the potential like driven pass into Omri, or you can just always just turn back and like work something else. But he'll step over, take the wing, seeing if he could work anything. He couldn't, so he takes his time, goes Blanc, finds Bruno. L1 triangle Haaland. When did he trigger that Haaland? So he triggers his Haaland here. I wasn't really looking, but yeah, he triggers Haaland here. Takes his time. Finds Bruno. L1 triangle. Now he's through. Finds edge. Well, once again, another zone. Bang. Bang. Can we go down? Oh, not that. Can we go down wing? Or can we go edge into Omri? Can we work another finesse far corner, or can we even like work it to one of these guys if need be off Omri? Baits that, like, so he obviously as well, you have to consider like your opponent has to like defend one of these things, right? If Omri's so open, he kind of has to like, shit, I gotta cover this, right, with my Vieira. Which now is like bitten with this, and now like it leaves all this space to just attack him with Haaland. You kind of want to be able to like bait, like, oh cool, I'm going to go this way, and then go back. But that's why I always say it's more important to do it like a positive touch, and always like basically be running towards goal, and then you can always like turn back and bait, and then you can still go forward. If you like turn back and then try and rework going positive, like it's even harder, right? So he takes space, R1 dribbling down, waiting, finds Omri, finds Hullet, shot cancel, lovely goal. But yeah, as you see, a lot of it all came from Tekkz's triggers from the left back and the left centre mid constantly in his play. Switching. Trigger again, left centre mid, constantly doing it. Now plays the ball in the air, can play for a knockdown, and then it's a really unlucky penalty. Like, I don't really know how it was a penalty, but I think he went, what, did he go top left, I want to say, if I remember correct. Let's see if I remember correct. But yeah, very tough. That one was super unlucky to concede. And then, is there more? What was that, 5? That was 5. Yeah, then it was done. But yeah, hopefully you learned something and enjoyed it, and there'll be plenty more of these coming soon.